So at the beginning of the pandemic, you decided to wait to buy a lake home because some expert or your uncle told you that a wave of foreclosures was coming from all the people that were going to lose their jobs and not be able to afford their lake homes anymore. So you were waiting for some dirt cheap lake places to come up. Not only did you watch prices grow by double-digit percentages every year, but you also missed out on historically low interest rates. Now you're hearing this time it's going to be different. The question on everybody's mind is there going to be a real estate crash? I'm going to dive into the economics of the situation and the 5 reasons why lake homes prices have not crashed yet. And I want to hear from you, so make sure to leave me a comment letting me know what you're seeing with real estate trends where you live. In 2020 and 2021, we saw mortgage interest rates hovering around an average of low 3% and high 2%. Then in 2022, we saw the average interest rate jump to 5.34%. And in 2023, we're seeing interest rates in the 7s. But at the same time, home prices have remained consistently high. And a big challenge that we're faced with now is even less property listings coming to market. According to CNBC, new listings were down 29% in the last week of June from the same time 1 year ago. That's pretty much 1/3 less. How could this be? Well, more than 82% of homeowners have an interest rate below 5%, and about 62% of homeowners have a rate below 4%. Almost 25% of homeowners with a mortgage in the US have a rate below 3%. This leads to a huge drop in the number of houses put up for sale because those people will put up with a lot to keep those super low interest rates and lower payments. Garage too small? Park in the driveway or put up a shed. No primary bedroom with an ensuite bathroom so you can poop without your kids barging in? Suck it up and buy a lock for the door. People with 2 and 3% interest rates aren't likely to move unless they absolutely have to. Like they have to move to another state for a new job, or even in cases where they have to move, they're much more likely to try to keep that home as an investment property instead of selling it. Think about it. If you have an interest rate that starts with a 2 or a 3, you're not going to want to trade that in for one that starts with a 7. And this right here creates an unusual real estate market. Even with experts talking about a recession, in some parts of the country, we still have home prices rising because buyers have so few homes to choose from. So it's supply and demand. Very low supply of homes for sale and high demand for those homes. Let's talk next about months supply of inventory. Now, months supply of inventory means that if everyone decided that they were not going to sell their home and there were no new homes listed for sale or no new homes built, how many months we would have until we ran out of homes completely. To put it another way, if there are 50 homes for sale and we average selling 10 homes per month, we have 5 months of inventory and we'll run out of homes in 5 months. Where I live in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, we have less than 2 months of inventory. For perspective, that's an extremely low amount of homes for sale. There are so few properties for sale. And going back to supply and demand, with so few homes for sale, prices have remained strong because the demand is high. And speaking of supply and demand, lake homes are unique in that they are highly desirable and a lot of people want a lake place, whether it's for their primary residence, a second home, or a vacation rental. But generally speaking, we aren't making a lot more lakes. So short of finding a home on a lake that has enough land that it can be subdivided, there are even less lake homes for sale in this tricky market. I don't have a measure of month supply for lake homes, but anecdotally in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin, where I sell real estate, I can tell you that families tend to try to keep their lakefront property in the family. And I see lake places being passed down from generation to generation without ever hitting the market. So these types of properties are even harder to find. If you're not working with a fantastic and proactive local real estate agent to help you find these places, you're going to miss out every single time. So if you've been wanting to buy a lakefront property, give me a call and I'll connect you with an agent in the area you're looking. So when that lake property comes up, you have an expert in your corner fighting for you. Now, what about all those foreclosures that you heard some expert or your uncle talking about? We haven't really seen too many of those. And here's why. According to Freddie Mac, home prices grew by 11% in 2020 and by almost 18% in 2021. In 2022, home prices went up another 10%. Homes go into foreclosure when the homeowner is no longer able to keep up with their mortgage payments and they owe more on it than the home is currently worth. So in lots of cases, people who can no longer afford their homes, they're not foreclosing, but they're rather just selling their homes in today's market and getting more than they paid for it and profiting off the sale of their home. So that's making a lot of these foreclosures disappear. Obviously, the number of foreclosures you see will depend on where you live. Where I live, which is marvelous Minnesota, in 2022, we only saw 376 homes in the entire state go into foreclosure. And that's out of over 2.4 million housing units. Out of all the states in our country in 2022, California had the highest number of foreclosure filings, over 3,400. But California is a huge and highly populated state. They have over 14,300,000 housing units. 3,400 out of over 14 million homes is not exactly what I would call a wave of foreclosures. If you want a housing crash, then we need more sellers than buyers. And as you can tell with everything I've talked about already, we're just not seeing that. Here's yet another reason why. The median length of home ownership is about 13 years. So statistically speaking, people are living in their home for about 13 years before they move on. But today, almost 60% of homeowners who have a mortgage have owned their home for less than 4 years. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down here? 3/5 of homeowners have about 9 years to go before they're going to be selling their home. And that's if interest rates don't continue to go up. If interest rates continue to go up, then it's very plausible that we may see the median length of homeownership go up as well. Rising mortgage rates might price some home buyers out of the real estate market, but institutional investors are still buying properties nationwide. Institutional buyers are companies that own over 1,000 properties, and they accounted for one home sale out of every 15 home sales in the US in the last quarter of 2022. This is yet another reason we haven't seen a crash. These big companies may not be as active in some markets as they were in the past, but they're still buying in others. It's very location dependent. If you're looking for a lake home, chances are good you won't be competing with an institutional investor for lakefront because lake homes typically are at a higher price point and they don't fit the buy criteria of standard single family home rentals that the big companies are looking for. Something that will impact you, however, is the fact that 1/3 of home buyers in the US are buying their homes cash, which is the biggest level it's been in nearly a decade. We're reaching a time when baby boomers are retiring and sometimes moving to warmer climates or closer to family or downsizing or to one level living. And these baby boomers have worked and invested and saved their whole lives. So if you're looking for a lake home and not paying with cash, competing with these cash buyers is going to be hard. And cash buyers aren't impacted by interest rates that are higher today than they were in the past. I'm curious to hear from you. What are you seeing in the real estate market where you live? If you're interested in learning more about lake homes, I have another video, 5 things no one tells you about buying a lake home, and I'll drop the link right here. So click on that and you can see more information about buying a lake home.